Hi everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, whatcassread. Today, we are filming in my bedroom because I don't know if you can hear in the background, but it is Sunday, which means it's football. My team just went into overtime and I only have so much daylight left to film. So I can't wait for overtime to be over. So I just locked myself in my room. And that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, basically I just wanted to come in and quickly film what my most anticipated releases are for the year 2025. Okay, so I actually don't have that many on my list, which I don't think that is a bad thing. There have been years where I've had several repeating authors and maybe it was like a series I was in the middle of or maybe a series I hadn't yet started yet. I'm actually pretty psyched about this list because I've read all of these authors and I've liked all of these authors, clearly. Okay, so the very first book that I'm excited for, it comes out in January. It comes out very, very quickly. It comes out January 14th, 2025, and that is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, written by Grady Hendrix. I have seen Grady Hendrix all over BookTube for the last couple of years, and I actually read my very first Grady Hendrix book this past year, and that was a Southern Book Club's guide to slaying a vampire or slaying vampires, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars, but it was just like the right amount of campy horror and vampires. You know, it was a really fun take. And so that just made me want to read more of Grady Hendrix's books, and there's plenty to choose from. So I do want, since they're like none of these are in series, I do want to give this Witchcraft for Wayward Girls a try. The description is, they call them wayward girls, loose girls, girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to the Wellwood home in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summer of 1970, pregnant, terrified, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. Did we win? There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune. And Zinnia, a budding musician who knows she's going to go home and marry her baby's father. And Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute and pregnant by no one knows who. Everything the girls eat every moment of their waking day and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft, and power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. Power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually in blood. So I'm really pumped for that one, because like I said, Grady Hendrix, I've seen so many good things about Grady Hendrix in the books that I haven't read, and then one of his that I have read, loved it. So the next 2 books, they're going to be coming out in May 2025. The first one is an author that I've read several of his books. I was a part of the Ketchup Book Club's read-along for Joe Abercrombie, so I made it through the first trilogy with them, and then I fell off for the last 4 books. Mental health was just not where it was at to read Joe Abercrombie, but I'm feeling good that I can pick him back up again, and especially this one sounds like sinister and good and a little bit creepy, and I'm excited. So it's called The Devils, comes out May 13th. 2025. Okay, super psyched for this one. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city where he is certain a commendation and grand holy assignment awaits him. But his new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters, and the mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous ends. Evils lurk at our borders and hunger for our flesh, while greedy princes care for nothing but their own ambitions and comfort. With a hellish journey before him, it's a good thing Brother Diaz has the devils on his side. I'm pretty pumped about that one. All right, and then my next book that comes out in May is an author that I've also read lots of books from, and this is one of my most read authors. I do have to catch up on this author, and I'm actually thinking about filming a vlog. I've got a plan in mind. This comes out May 27th, and this is Stephen King's new book. It's called Never Flinch. It is the 4th book with his character Holly Gibney, who we are first introduced to in the Bill Hodges trilogy, the Mr. Mercedes mystery trilogy. There's like no possible way for me to be unbiased about this book, which makes me nervous and excited because I just have grown very attached to this character from the moment that we met her in the first book of the Bill Hodges trilogy. So we've seen her character pop up several times. All right, so it says, when the Buckeye City Police Department receives a disturbing letter from a person threatening to kill 13 innocents and 1 guilty in an act of atonement for the needless death of an innocent man, Detective Izzy James has no idea what to think. Are 14 citizens about to be slaughtered in an unhinged act of retribution? As the investigation unfolds, Izzy realizes that the letter writer is deadly serious, and she turns to her friend Holly Gibney for help. Meanwhile, controversial and outspoken women's rights activist Kate McKay is embarking on a multi-state lecture tour, drawing packed venues of both fans and detractors. Someone who vehemently opposes Kate's message of female empowerment is targeting her and disrupting her events. At first, no one is hurt, but the stalker is growing bolder, and Holly is hired to be Kate's bodyguard. That's an interesting role for Holly. If, like, Holly just has a lot of neurodivergent qualities to her that when we first meet her, she doesn't really like a lot of other people. So that's interesting that she's going to be a bodyguard. Okay. A challenging task with a headstrong employer and a determined adversary driven by wrath and his belief in his own righteousness. Featuring a riveting cast of both old and new, including world-famous gospel singer TWSBI and an unforgettable villain addicted to murder, these twins' narratives converge in a chilling and spectacular conclusion. Oh, I'm pretty pumped. I didn't realize the theme of my most anticipated reads for the beginning half of the year were all going to be like as dark and twisty and murdery as they are. I guess that's going to be like the first half of the year. I've just been really into dark and twisty and murdery and occulty sorts of things. But now, as we switch to this last 2 books that I'm the most excited that are coming out in 2025, I have already pre-ordered one of them. That's how excited I am for it. So completely different direction, but we are going back to romantasy. And these are 2 books that are coming out that are going to be like traditional published versions of Hermione fanfiction. I just posted a video of my favorite Hermione fanfics, and the 2 that these are based off of were a part of that video. So the first one, it actually has a release date. It actually has a cover. It's called Rose and Chains, book number 1 of the Evermore trilogy, and that is written by Julie Soto. So the Hermione fanfiction that it is based off of, I've actually read twice this year. That's how much I love it. It's called The Auction. The Death Eaters decide to have an auction to auction off like all of their captives, which include Muggleborns and Half-Bloods. So Hermione Granger is auctioned off in there. So that's what this is based off of. All right, now check out this blurb. It sounds like it's still going to be like pretty close to like what Julie Soto originally wrote in The Auction, but definitely like her own romantasy world. Okay, so captured as her castle is overrun by the enemy, Bryony Rosewood knows that the world as she knows it is changed forever. The dark forces of Bombard have won, and her people, the Eversons, face imminent servitude, imprisonment, or death. Her brother, fated to be heir twice over and unite the Warren Kingdoms, is dead. Stripped of her mind magic and her freedom, Bryony and the other survivors are quickly auctioned off to the highest bidders in an auction, and as the heir apparent's sister, she fetches the highest price. After a fierce bidding war, she's sold to none other than Tovin, a high-ranking Bombardson, and her long-time and ill-fated infatuation. Scion of a family known for their cruel control of heart magic, the Hursts are ruthlessly ambitious, and Bryony knows they will use her however they can to further their own interests. Yet, despite the horrors of her new world and the role she must learn to play within it, all is not lost. Help and hope may yet arise in the most unlikely of places. That's the one I pre-ordered. I don't know, we live in a world where fan fiction can be taken seriously enough to be traditionally published in new and spectacular ways. So the very last book that I'm excited for, I don't know that it has like an actual release date yet. It just says anticipated 2025. It is Alchemised, written by Senlin Yu. And Senlin Yu is the writer of Manacled. Manacled is like my top tier Hermione fan fiction. It's, I think so many people who aren't even into fan fiction have read Manacled because of all the buzz that it gets, and the buzz is completely well-deserved. So I am hyped for a traditionally published version of this story and for Senlin Yu to get her flowers. There's no trigger warnings associated with the traditionally published version yet, so I don't know what we're going to get from it, but it says a standalone dark fantasy set in a war-torn world of necromancy and alchemy with an enemies to lovers romance that is by turn tender, toxic, and all-consuming. So if it's got necromancy and alchemy, I don't know like if they're going to stick with the Handmaid's Tale plotline, which is these like enslaved women who are surrogates for rich families. That's what Manacled is. So it's a huge plot point. I don't know why it wouldn't be an Alchemized, but it's not said in the blurb. So, and there's been no trigger warnings about it. Okay, this is editing me. I have to add this to my most anticipated releases for 2025 because I had this book on my list initially, but the publication date just kept getting pushed back and back and back and back. And so I just didn't know when it was going to come out. Well, now I can say that there's a cover. It looks like there's a release date. That is Silverborn, book number 4 in the Morgan Crow series, written by Jessica Townsend. The Nevermore series is seriously one of my favorite fantasy series. It's a middle grade series, and it's so cozy, heartwarming, adventurous, magical. It's so good. So I'm really pumped. I will have no problem rereading the first 3 before the release of Silverborn. I do anticipate getting that almost as soon as it's released, and I'm very pumped for it. So Morgan Crow, I guess we can go back to the beginning. Morgan Crow is a young girl who lives with her father and like her stepmother and her half-brothers. And she was born on a very, very unlucky day called Eventide. And so because of this, like all of the town where she lives, like anything that is considered bad luck is blamed on her. Like literally any kind of bad luck is blamed on Morgan because she was born on this very, very unlucky day. And so I guess when they're like 12 or something, they get the opportunity to like interview, go to a fair where they get to interview lots of different people, companies, schools to go and continue their studies with. And this mysterious character named Jupiter North comes along, whisks Morgan away, and she begins her adventure in the land of Nevermore. And it's so great. So I couldn't have an anticipated 2025 releases without including that book. Okay, there was my quick and chaotic, have to film this video during overtime version of my most anticipated reads for 2025. Let me know what you think about these picks. You know, it's a smaller list than some people have, but I think that just makes me like even more jazzed and more hyped for these 5 books that I've selected as my most anticipated releases. And then let me know what you're thinking about for 2025 as well. Okay, social media, all of those fun links, everything is down in the comment section below. You know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.